Hey there, folks. So last episode, we finished up getting some of the logic added in for our like clothing items and for things like that with regards to the condition and then sort of the protection and temperature insulation and things that they use for that they provide to the character. Uh, Obviously, you get piercing protection, bludgeon, slashing, cold insulation, heat insulation, so on and so forth. One thing, and then I said we would move on to sort of adding that on to the character and all the logic that needs to be added for that. However, between episodes, I did some investigation. It's actually why I was looking at the inventory component just then. And I do realize, or I found out, that how I've implemented the inventory component as it stands right now doesn't work to provide inventory for non-character based entities. So what that means, just to try and explain a little better, is the way the inventory component has been designed to this point is it will only work as a proper inventory when attached to a character. So like player character or an NPC. That was not my intent. My intent with that was to have a inventory component that I could drop onto, say, a kitchen cupboard or a fridge or just any form of container that needed to have that as well. And that is currently not going to work just because of, well, what we have here. We have owner is only able to be a TF character. And if we take a look here in our begin play, super begin play, ATF character, we're casting, getting the owner. If the owner is a null pointer, we're just saying this failed. We need to change this up a little bit. So what we're going to do here is this is going to be left as an owner. And this is just going to be changed from an ATF character to a actor. If we go back to our begin play get owner, get rid of IntelliSense here, returns an A actor pointer. So what we're going to say here is if the cast failed to a TF character, we're going to say, actually I'm going to leave that here, we're going to go ATF actor pointer. Trying to think what do I want to actually I'm going to change this to C owner for character owner, and then it's going to be A owner equals cast a TF character, TF actor, get owner. And then in here it's going to be if a owner is equal to a null pointer, so a failed cast, we're going to log this. So we do need to add some additional logic in here. So basically what we're doing though is we're going to say if C owner is a null pointer, we're going to try to cast it to, well, from a TF character, we're going to check is it an actor, a TF actor. We're going to do here though is else. We're going to say owner equals, and this is going to be C owner to fix that. And then what we can do here is, why are you telling me? Oh, it's just IntelliSense not catching up. Owner equals a owner. Now, this is all well and done, well and good. We now have a pointer to the owning entity. However, we don't have a way to go, okay, well, is this an actor or is this a character? So we need to add a new Boolean to that. And we're just going to add this here. This one we're not even going to expose to blueprints. This is just something for internal code. Bool B owner is character. We're going to say false to start with. And that means in this code flow here, so if it's not a character, we don't need to make any changes. But in this case, if it is a character, we're going to go be owner is character equals true. And the reason being that is for further on or other places in the code. As you can see, we do have a few errors here on the right. Scroll down to those. What we need to do is in here, we need to do a couple of things. So if not be owner is character, we're just going to return here. We do not want to execute any of this logic because a fridge can't use a bandage. Down here, cast ATF character. And all we're doing with this is we're passing along our owner as a TF character. Okay, that's good for this one. Let's take a look at this next error. Well, same thing here. Well, first of all, we can do if, actually we can just add that right as a very first use case here. If be owner is character and then we're going to go cast ATF character owner. So then we're going to say, okay, well, it's a TF character. We're going to call this equip on there. So that's that one there. And then this third and final error, equip item at index. Well, again, it's going to be quite simple. If not be owner is character, return. Now this is also where you'd want to probably add in some logging to like log, okay, we've called equipped item on a fridge. And then all we can do is just same thing here. Scroll up and grab that. My brain is not working right there. All right, so what we've done here though, and just to go over this quickly because I understand this is something I made a mistake on when I originally created the inventory component because my intent was to have a universal inventory component that was plug and play. Like I said, drop it on a kitchen cabinet, on a fridge, on a wooden box, whatever you want it to be a container, and then have that be able to also be dropped onto a character or onto whatever to be able to not have to completely duplicate and have two different inventory components and two different sets of logic or a helper function to identify, okay, well, this one is a actor inventory component, this one is a character inventory component, things like that. So that was the whole purpose for wanting to create this universal plug and play inventory component. And as it stood, it didn't work because obviously, as I said, in here, we were just assuming it was a TF character. So I made that mistake. These are some code changes to fix that. Now, the reason why we are setting this to false by default and only saying be owner's character here is simply because we have, let me just find the first one we did in here. This logic right here, this is a very easy escape case. It's like, okay, a fridge cannot use a bandage, or we don't want our inanimate object containers to be able to use an item. Yes, we want, say, a human NPC to be able to use a bandage from their inventory, but we don't want this fridge to gain sentience and think it can use a bandage sort of thing. So in here, we just have this quick escape clause. It's like, okay, owner's not a character. This function was called. It shouldn't have been. Let's just drop out. And then that avoids everything. Actually, looking at this, and these are Boolean, so these are going to fail. What we want to do here, actually thinking about that, just looking at my previous code, I'm going to get rid of this if case here. So this right here at the start is our escape clause. If it's not a character, the owner is a null pointer, or we're calling outside of the index, we have a problem. All right, so that's that one there. Drop item at index. We want to be able to do that because you could have, say, I'm trying to think. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a reason why the drop stack at index. I know there's reasons. I can't think of a good example of what one would be. So we don't need to worry about that here. And then equip item and index, we can just throw that on. Actually move that down to here as well. We don't need that other one. That's just our general escape clause. And the logging we have there is correct. Is still valid. Invalid owner or out of range. Now in here, you may want to, for your own projects, for your own logging, you may want to have two different cases, like owner's character or owner is a null pointer, invalid owner, and then a second exit case of index out of range. But yeah, that covers everything here. So now what we would want to be doing is we're going to want to be dealing with, as I was talking about last episode, passing through the information. So in here, how did we do that? So I'm going to do a quick build, hop into the editor. Actually, no, I've removed all of that already with the hat, didn't I? No, the logic's there within the UI. So I'm going to run a quick build, hop into the editor, and we're going to take a quick look at the way we've set up the functionality for equipping an item. And like if there's something already equipped and things like that. So we know which functions we need to change to, or not per se change, but we need to adjust to account for adding insulation, adding protection, things like that. So I will pause the video and I'll be right back as soon as we are back in the editor to take a look at that. All right, so we are back in the editor here, and we are just going to take a look at how we have set up for our equipping items. Let me just bring the content browser over here. I believe it's actually down in third person. I really need to clean this up. So there we go. Okay, so if we look at our graph here, we are calling Okay, so we don't have anything there if we already have something equipped. Let's move this out of the way. Okay, there we go. All right, so we were calling equip item at index, so that was actually actually doing that. Are we? What is equip item at index? Oh, that's going back to the basic HUD. Okay, so let me get that over. Okay, so in the basic HUD here, equip item at index. We're just passing that through, calling equip item at index on the inventory component. Okay. So inventory component, equip item at index. We're coming through here. We're saying this is the index and whether or not we are equipping it. Okay, so this is something we are going to, actually I'm going to stop the editor. So this is something else that I need to address. As it stands right now, characters in theory could have 10 hats equipped or 10 shirts equipped or things like that. So if we go through to TF character equip item, where's TF character? Okay, equip item. In here, you can see we are just setting a mesh. We are not actually like based on the slot. So it's the as equipped item get slot type. If we're equipping it, we're setting a mesh. Otherwise, null pointer. We have nothing in place to check to see if an item already is already equipped in said slot. Now, we do have, where is it, slot type, core stat. Equipment slot, there we go. So we do have predefined equipment slots that we have created: head, torso, hand, legs, feet, weapon, backpack. And I remember when we set this up in that episode, I mentioned you can expand this. So this is where you're going to want to decide how you want your character's equipment grid to work for your game. So off the top of my head, let's take the one I can think of as Project Zomboid. You could have, like, I think it's what, a undershirt, a t-shirt, a long sleeve shirt, and a coat. So you had 4 torso items for clothing. Then you had like a bulletproof vest. Then you had like there's multiple different slots that an item can take. So that is something you're going to need to keep in mind and figure out how you want to do, because this is actually right now something I'm sort of not doing on the fly because I screwed that up in the last episode. I've got my notes on this one. But right now I have a head slot, a torso slot, hands, legs, feet, and backpack for clothing items. Now, you could also expand this, and I'm going to, because I do want to have a couple other ones. So I want ES belt equals 7. I'm trying to think how I want to describe this, because right now, like, you've got torso, which that's just going to be limiting you to, you can have a t-shirt on, or a coat on, or a bulletproof vest. So I'm going to add ES inner shirt, outer shirt, and then from there I'm trying to think how else do I want to expand that. And this is the sort of thing you may need to pause your own work and actually sit down and think about how you want to do this. And actually, I think that's what I'm going to do at this point. I'm going to pause the video again. I'm going to take a bit of time. I'm going to sit down, figure out exactly how I want to handle the equipment slot positioning. And by that, I mean like, okay, how many inner layers do I want in the torso? Things like that. So what I'm going to do is I am going to pause the video here and I will be back once I have this figured out. All right, so I've gone through and I've done some thinking. For those quick observant, you'll see I've commented out some of the stuff I'd put there. I've also added in some additional comments. And this is actually where I'm going to end up ending the video here shortly. I know, pretty anticlimactic, but I wanted to go through and explain sort of my reasons for everything I'm about to say and do. So, after taking some time, I sat down to try and think about what it is I wanted to do, how I wanted to go about dealing with this issue of the fact that I wasn't sure what sort of equipment slots I wanted to deal with. I wasn't sure how I wanted to handle that on the character, and I wasn't sure how I wanted to like address that when it comes to like the visual aspects of stuff. And this is something, it's like I said, I wanted to talk about because this is one of the reasons I've actually ended up having to restart this project in the past. Is I would hit this point where I'd be like, okay, what do I want to do here? I don't know. I really don't know. I need to think about this. And I couldn't come up with a solution that would work for me. I would end up like banging my head against the wall, trying to figure things out, and I couldn't decide what I wanted to do. And instead of doing that again, obviously because A, I have this series to go through, and B, I want to just get work on this project. I don't want to keep restarting. I've actually happy with how much progress I've made. Yes, I don't have anything playable properly yet, but it's getting there. So what I'm going to be doing here, as you can see, I've added these in, but I've commented them out. I'm actually going to put a pin in working on this equipment stuff because I need to figure it out. Now, for any solo dev, you're pretty much going to want to do the exact same thing I'm doing now of put a pin in it, come back to it after you've had some more time to think about it while you're working on other part of the code. Now, if you're working as part of a team, that's obviously going to be a little different. You're going to want to reach out to your game designers, your creative people on the project and say, look, okay, here's the different options we have. How are we moving forward? It's not clear in the documentation. There's multiple different ways we could do this. We need to nail it down. Because, and the reason why I'm saying that is I have a couple of options in front of me of how I could go about doing this. I could go through in the character, and you can see here, I've got existing hat, torso, leg, hand, feet, backpack mesh. We could go through and expand that to like inner torso, outer torso, jacket, leg, sock, belt, left foot, right foot, backpack, bandana, helmet, face mask. I could do that and just have this singular character, TF character class, be insanely deep with, I don't want to say insanely, be significantly deeper with the number of character or skeletal mesh components that are on the character. I could create a new character class that derives as a child from TF character, and it could be like TF human character, and need to go through and like move, say, torso mesh, leg mesh, move equipment, like some of this functionality into this child class. I could leave it as just these few things here. I can say right now I'm not going to be leaving it as just these few things here because, well, it's not how I want my game to be. I want it to be pretty in-depth. For anyone who's played, was it Neo Scavenger or it's Astronauts, the same guys have done it. You have things like a left shoe, a right shoe. You could, like, the level of detail of what you can equip on your character is pretty intense. And I'm hoping to go for something like that. Like, I want to have that granular, like, you have a hiking boot on your right foot and a tennis shoe or a croc on your left foot, something like that. I want to go to that level. So I need to figure out what I want to do there. And instead of going through and pushing this forward with code that I may have to completely rip out and do again, or is completely useless, and instead of just stopping until I figured this out, I'm going to, like I said, put a pin in it. This is something I'm going to be thinking about in the background on top of the 18 other things I've got that I'm trying to figure out still in the background, and decide how I want to move forwards. With that, the other thing I'm going to be doing is, as I said, moving over to a different section of the code. And that's where I'm going to be moving forwards with the series for now. I don't know where I'm going to be going with that. I could be hopping over to, because I know, well, let's just take a look at my task list here. I got a couple of things. We got some blueprint work I need to, blueprint AI work I need to deal with, two-handed weapon logic I need to deal with. This is actually something I want to deal with, is a fueled heat source, so like a campfire. We've got the got to decide how I want to do this with regards to the timer delegates. We've got now, what do we here? These are for the tick stats, things like that. Helper function for spawning. So yeah, there's a lot of different things I can move over to work on. So basically what I'm saying, though, is I'm using this more as a trying to help people at this moment. You're going to run into these situations where you hit a roadblock. It could be a roadblock of your own doing. Like in my case, I don't actually have clearly defined requirements for how I want to do equipment. It could be a roadblock of somebody else's doing, which is the same thing. There's no clearly defined requirements for a particular bit of work you're doing. Or you just don't know how to do or meet the requirement. Now, if you don't know how to meet the requirement, that's a little different, but it's a roadblock. And sometimes you're going to hit these roadblocks and you're going to want to just stop, especially if you're a solo dev doing it as a side project, like I am. And as I said, this is something I've hit in the past, and it's caused me to actually abandon the project. It got that bad before. So don't panic when you hit these roadblocks. Change your trajectory, work on something else, while you, at the same time, try to remove said roadblock. So in my case, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be reviewing how I want to do my equipment, how I want to move forward with things on that, and doing that around also working on the code aspect of the project. So, but anyways, folks, this is where I'm going to leave things off. As always, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below, or hop over onto the Discord, ask away there. I do try to respond as quickly as I can. Again, for some reason, YouTube, I'm not getting notifications about comments on there. I actually have to actively go look at every video to see if there's a comment. For some reason, it's being weird. Over in Discord, though, I get those pretty much instantly. But anyways, as I said, this is where I'm going to leave things off. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.